So yeah, grand vision. We're going to have this amazing developer community, and yeah, an army of builders building on top of our games. How are we going to get there? You can do nothing, right? This was Dark Forest V03. You might attract one crazy developer. That was me. I installed React Dev tools, and then dug into their code so that I could write a console-based map importer and exporter. And it turns out Brian thought I was a mad genius, and somehow I'm here. But like in a traditional game, Minecraft is this thing that's been going on for like 10 years now. And there's not really an official server API, right? Like people have reverse engineered this. You'll get the crazy people that are just so dedicated that they'll build no matter what. But it's a small subset, and it will take a long time to get knowledge transfer. This isn't ideal, right? In 0.4, Dark Forest started providing, well, I guess in 0.3 they did provide a massive dump of the source code, but in 0.4 it was actually split up for the ETH stuff and the client stuff. And I mean, this helps people in their respective, like where their interest is whether they want to do smart contract stuff or whether they want to do custom client stuff. So provide the source code, provide source maps. This is something I ran into with ZK Dungeon last night, is I wanted to script it, and they did the like proper development thing, is where they didn't ship source maps because they're huge. But I wasn't able to decipher their code, so I couldn't script their client last night. You want these builders to be able to hack your code. You want them to be able to understand it. This turns your game into more of like a CTF, like from the security communities. Like they run these capture the flag things, and those become hiring opportunities for companies looking for really dedicated, really interested folks. And I mean, there's tweets. This thread is like 10 tweets long, by the way. If you find it, just search Dark Forest and hiring or something like that. There are people that are actually looking at these games right now and using that as like a hiring tool. I think after 0.4, I had like a couple of DMs as well. You want them building the interactions and remixing and changing your game so that they're building things that you're not thinking about. And if their energy is not focused on reverse engineering your source code, they can be more creative and they can be more engaged and just generate more stuff. Okay, so you have the source code release, you have people interested and doing cool experimental stuff. The thing that, I mean, I didn't even want this because I was remixing the client, but the Dark Force team was like, well, no, let's put a plugin system in the game. And I think that this was a massive stepping stone because the non-developers, they don't need any of the tools anymore. They just drop into the game and they can put some code in there and it'll work. You can give them some examples. They can grab stuff off of whatever chat channels, Twitter, gists, or whatever, drop them into the console and remix them. Like one of my favorite things is like in round one of version 06, Neurons was messaging me as like, how do I take this code that is, I have to press a button to do something and make it automated? I'm like, oh, well, so here's like how you do a set interval in JavaScript. And like from somebody who doesn't code at all to remixing a plugin with no tools necessary so that he can have some automation, I think was super awesome. Games are such a low, I mean, Jake mentioned this, there is a low stakes environment. So some things kind of get ignored, but like that is also a benefit because people can learn without risking a lot, right? Especially if you put nothing in your burner wallet, like what are you gonna lose, 15 cents? And like you could go even a step further, like Dark Forest has, provide showcases where people can show off these things, which makes it easier for non-developers to pull things in and remix them. You can see where I'm going. The thing to do after that is to get your developers talking. Everybody could be in an isolated silo, but as soon as you get them talking, the ideas like it's a multiplying effect. It's not just, oh, I'm going to write a crawl plugin or whatever, and everybody's writing a crawl plugin, but no, like, what is the next thing we can do? This is how we get to Jake's future, is to get these people talking. Some things, I mean, that you like, developers do want to share. That's why we're in this space. That's why we're doing open source stuff like this. Like, get them into a Discord or a chat channel, Telegram, whatever. Create a repository, whether that's like a one to their self. We use the plugin showcase. Like, people will create issues about what problems are, what things they want. They'll create pull requests and then have each other like review the others' pull requests, have them talking. And then Dark Forest did this as well, run a couple of events, have people show off what they've built, like even deep dive on the stuff. And then, I mean, from my own personal, I love to see preview builds of the game. So show me cool stuff before other people. Like, I like to feel special. And that will get people talking and formulating ideas. And then, I mean, the biggest point of all of this as like the game designer is you want to watch what the community is doing and then adapt to what they're doing. Sure, the game creators could build in certain things that they want people to do, but the coolest stuff is when people do weird stuff. For example, like, and when I'm saying weird stuff, like, just have other ways to play. Like, Jake and I have this grand vision eventually. Like, I don't know if anyone's seen, we did the broadcast market where you can like buy and sell reveals of planets in the universe. But additionally to that, like, wouldn't it be cool if you could put a bounty to completely destroy Black Domain, one of those planets that you did? So like, it's like a bounty hit contract. Like, that is another way to play. You could be an outlaw or a bounty player, and you aren't even going for the main score. You're just attacking people and getting paid for it. And so when people do these weird things that you didn't think, that's when the game grows. That's when metaverses happen. The best way to do this is to make your patterns like easy to consume, easy to understand, solving problems for developers. One of the things that Dark Forest is, it does a lot of like checks for you to make sure that you aren't sending a transaction that you know is going to get reverted. But like, if you're automating stuff, you can usually just avoid that stuff. So if you make ways for people to call into these methods where they're not like dealing with like pressing OK in the UI and things like this, it really helps. And it solves a lot of these like just little problems. Provide lots of tools, as many tools as you can provide. Share your interfaces, write interface for your contracts, provide types, provide contract addresses, do all sorts of things to make devs' lives easier, because you want them experimenting, not re-implementing your wheels. And like I said, don't force them down a path, because the most interesting stuff is going to be weird stuff that you didn't think of. And finally, just communicate with your devs or with your third-party developer community. If you need to break something in your APIs, let them know ahead of time. Talk to them, figure out what they do need, figure out what they need. And yeah, let them know when things are happening, invite them to staging rounds, etc. And then, I mean, I'm pretty happy with how the Dark Forest community has grown through the last several rounds. So, and I think more great things are going to be coming. So these are the steps that happened for it to get there. That's all I have. Does anybody have, oh, I am at my time, so find me at dinner. Oh, really? Does anybody have a question?
I can make a comment real quick.
Ryan wants to make a comment. I think you're as loud as you can be.
Oh, hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think that these two presentations like pair very nicely with each other, and also giving me and Ivan some actionables for what's next. The interesting thing to me is that like a lot of the stuff around interoperability is not free, and like what might be necessary to unlock interoperability is sort of like the next level of a lot of the strategies that you just described here for even building a third party client community. So this is really cool, and that it gives us a lot to think about.
If anybody in the back couldn't hear, Brian said, "This is really cool. It gives me and Ivan a lot to think about." I'm summarizing. Yeah.
One thing I like about how you guys have been thinking about this is very like pragmatically oriented, right? It's less about in theory is this interoperable, and in practice, like, you know, if this doesn't work, it doesn't matter. If it's inaccessible, it's not truly interoperable. And you know, as the game like matures and the foundation kind of improves, it's already improved massively, you know, from the perspective of the player. How are you guys thinking about like the time in between rounds? Because even like for 0.6, one of the, in a way, it's really cool. Like this round 2 of 0.6 was like basically for hardcore players. Like you started in deep space, you know, it was really like it's just like a sprint. You can move much more quickly. You have nowhere to hide. But like, what are some of the ways or just ideas around making it so someone between rounds can be pointed toward the game? Because now I'm not even sure I can point someone to like round 3. I think it's going to be like harder than ever to like ease your way into the game. And I'm sure these are kinds of things you guys are discussing, but curious for some of the thoughts you have, because I think that like ties into a lot of the general stuff we've been discussing here.
Yeah, so the question was, how do you think about in between rounds and keeping the community active, or even recommending new people into the community? And that's either between rounds or even at the beginning of a new round. I think there's a couple of things that I think of. One is we just need other ways to play. The one thing that I'm very interested in is building a lobby system where you were actually able to clone a production contract and initialize it with brand new variables. I did some digging this week, and it seems very hard because OpenZeppelin hides the implementation addresses. So I don't think I can do it with a fully on-chain like cloning mechanism. So like being able to just like spin up and practice, like I think you see this a lot in like StarCraft or whatever, is where people are just practicing rule sets over and over and getting those repetitions down. I think that would help a lot in like people being more confident in playing the game. And then as for the competitiveness and recommending at the beginning of a round, I think that bots are too powerful right now. And I've mentioned this a couple times to the team. I think there needs to be, you're never going to shut them out. You don't want to shut them out, right? You don't want to ban people playing with bots. It's a kind of an integral part to this sandbox game. You think you need more things for the bot players to do that they have to do to succeed than an individual player needs to succeed. For example, in the last round, everybody that got an email got 5 keys. And so they could actually use all 5 keys to initialize 5 different times into the universe and then transfer all of those all those new home bases to one account and play 5 different accounts, basically, or 5 different home worlds. And I think that the guilds and some top players might have been doing this. So instead of giving out keys, what if you had to farm keys? Whereas another player, or like a singular player, gets 1 key, gets dropped in, never needs another key. But if bot players and guilds are going to be like rapidly expanding and using up lots of keys, maybe you need to make them farm for a key, right? For their second, third, fourth key. So they're just things that you can build into the game where these over-optimized players are, it forces them. And that way, that should be a kind of balancing mechanism so that you can throw a new player in and they don't get stomped, right?
Yeah, I think like Dark Force is at the point now where like a single player mode would probably be worth investing in. Like something that just takes someone even an hour or 2, or it's just even like a time trial. Like here's a standard mini map, and the goal is just to capture a level 3 planet. That's actually like non-trivial.
Yeah.
To do. So something along those sorts, and if you just point new people on the side, like, well, go to the time trial. It honestly doesn't even need to point to XI. It almost maybe shouldn't. Like in the sense that just like that's just to get people thinking about what's going on and plug in.
Jake, do you want to talk about your idea? You're like, he has this giant write-up about what his idea for this is.
Yeah, we would like to see that done. I don't know when, but like, yeah, I think Yeah, tutorial is obvious, right? I mean, it's sort of the obvious thing to do. But yeah, like you said, and like not on network is even interesting. And I think going towards scaffold ETH type stuff, like like even crypto zombies type stuff, where it's not even just learning the game, but learning the contract calls and things alongside the game. Because like then you're learning, like you said, this low stakes environment. I'm not even sure I understood the blockchain until I played Dark Forest. Right, that was the thing that made me understand. And so I think that would be really exciting. It's like some sort of single player, like I don't know if we could do like a node into Wasm into the browser, so we can run like whatever Bitcoin has that, whatever, you can run a JavaScript based node or something, right? So it'd be really cool to run into that, inspect that, pause it, and also play tutorials of the game at the same time. I think that'd be really exciting.
There's a lot of there's also a lot of strategy that I think Jake has thought a lot about like if you have like there's like the feeder planet strategy in Dark Forest where you have a large planet and you have or maybe two large planets next to each other. You use one to power up to overflow another one, and then you use it as like a cannon to launch. And so like you could almost see like a tutorial like explaining these patterns to you, dropping you into a universe where those planets exist and be like, okay, now capture those and now use that to feed and use that to attack, right? You could easily see, and you could do it in like, yeah, like a JS EVM or something, right? And so they're not even playing on the XI or on mainnet or a testnet or anything. They're just running it in their browser. As soon as they close it, they're out of the tutorial.
Yeah, like we have these high level verbiage that goes in the game. Like we have these concepts of types of planets or natural systems you want to find because they're very like puddle jumpers and all these kind of things. And so like even amongst like, for not even just newbies of like, how do you move from here to here? But like, now that you know that, how do you know a good start when you see it? How do you know a good level 6 opportunity versus a bad one?
Cool. Thanks all.